Chapter 1536. The Fall of the Tensho Palace. Fatty Su opened his mouth wide, and the beautiful scenery in front of him made him dazed for a moment. I didn't expect that there would be such a special killing method when I came out to fight. After Purgatory Star took off her leather clothes, she was completely naked underneath. However, she took off her clothes in front of so many people, and she was expressionless. Ninjas have no self and don't have too much ridiculous self-esteem. As long as they can complete the task, they can sacrifice themselves. But this time, Purgatory Star took off her clothes and entered the invisible state again. Be careful! Bai Chunyu turned into a sky full of ice and snow blades, covering Fatty Su and Wu Di. She may use some killer moves. Wu Di and Fatty Su also became cautious. It doesn't matter. Even if she takes off her clothes, just dye her again. There are still a lot of fluorescent agent residues on the snow, so there is no need to worry about Purgatory Star approaching silently again. The three people were as if they were facing a great enemy, and they just waited quietly for Purgatory Star's attack. But after a long time, the expected things did not happen. Because they didn't know that at this time, Purgatory Star had already abandoned them and rushed towards the Sky Guard Palace on the Immortal Mountain at a high speed. Purgatory Star didn't care about the lives of other aliens in the Demon Court. The most important thing was to defend the base camp for the evil boy. The Demon Court was full of valuables collected by the evil boy over the years. She would never allow anyone to touch those things. Swish, swish, swish. She turned into a white stripe in the waves, with a simple cloth covering her vital parts, and went straight to the Sky Guard Palace. Soon she arrived at the gate of the palace. But everything she saw made her pupils shrink suddenly. Corpses, in front of the gate of the Sky Guard Palace, were filled with corpses of the Demon Court members. The blood dyed the ground red, and dozens of Demon Court members in black suits died in a very miserable way. Purgatory Star gritted her teeth and rushed directly into the gate of the Sky Guard Palace with a samurai sword in hand. Meanwhile, in the Tianzhou Palace, Deng Shintong and Liang Yu were looking at the collections here. Jia Tongzi was once a beggar living on the streets, so his house was also messy. Various precious treasures were piled up in the room, and even his bed was among these things. The whole house was like a garbage dump full of treasures. Precious ancient weapons, calligraphy and paintings, gold ornaments, everything. There are too many things, and it's hard to find what we are looking for. Liang Yu's right hand was always on the handle of Long Ming's knife, frowning and saying. Deng Shintong sighed. Every time I come to this time, I envy Zhang Yi so much. He used to want to win over Zhang Yi and become a member of his Tianjin team. I can only look for it slowly. Liang Yu said helplessly. No, that's not necessary. Deng Shintong shook his head. Since the evil boy is aware of the importance of those things, he wouldn't just put them in the pile of junk. I think he should have put the things we are looking for separately. Deng Shintong walked into the room, holding his chin, and began to simulate the evil boy's thoughts. If it were me, as the king of Neon, I would not bother to hide things in my own territory. And the things I love most must be placed where I can see them at any time and play with them at any time. He thought of this, looked around, and then walked to the video game area. There were several huge monitors and many game consoles and cartridges. He walked over and looked at the lazy sofa on the ground. He stretched out his hand and took out a book from the corner of the sofa. Yang Ming's mind learning has been found. He picked up the mind learning and shook it towards Liang Yu. At this time, Liang Yu also took out a transparent rectangular box from the bottom of the TV cabinet. I also found the dragon specimen. The precious dragon specimen was placed in the middle of a pile of figurines. Next to them were Hatsune Miku and Haruai Suzumiya. For the private residences of Neon, their status is extremely high, which is quite reasonable. The two smiled at each other. The mission of this trip was finally completed. They could leave here and return to Jiangnan district. Suddenly, Liang Yu frowned. She put away the specimens and pulled out Long Ming with her right hand. Someone is coming. Only one person, Deng Shintong said. The next moment, Purgatory Star rushed into the Tianzhou Palace with a samurai sword in hand and an angry face. Seeing the two, her originally beautiful facial features instantly became distorted. You dare to break into the Tianzhou Palace, damn it. You all deserve to die. Deng Shentong smiled slightly. We are just here to take back what belongs to our country. This should not be too much, right? Liang Yu said coldly. Why are you talking so much nonsense to her? She raised the Longming in her hand, and a pure killing intent instantly spread. Purgatory Star met Liang Yu's eyes, and in an instant the whole person was like falling into ice cave. The dark and cold eyes were just like the ghosts from hell. We'll be killed. We'll definitely be killed. But I don't want to die now. Anger can't make people strong. Liang Yu's murderous aura made Purgatory Star suddenly sober and made her realize one thing. When these two people appeared in the castle palace, it meant that Ming Haizongji and Maeda Yuichiro had died in battle. As the captain of the third squad, how could she fight against these two people?
She
stretched her hand back, then took out 2 smoke bombs and threw them to the ground.
Boom.
A lot of smoke filled the entire palace in an instant. Liang Yu's eyes condensed, and the long sword had already been used. The powerful blue mind energy was centered on her, sweeping in all directions like a storm. The smoke was also blown away in an instant, and the treasures in the palace were blown everywhere, and some hit the wall and were broken. Deng Shentong, tisk tisk, twice, don't waste it. Liang Yu looked around, and Purgatory Star had disappeared. Let her run away. Deng Shentong spread his hands. These ninjas are so cunning. But she is just a small minion. There is no need to care about her. We have already got what we want, so let's notify Zhang Yi as soon as possible and go back. While he was talking, he had already opened the communication channel and said to Zhang Yi with a smile, Boss Zhang, I have good news for you. The things are already in hand, and we can go back. However, Zhang Yi's answer made his smile awkward on his face. I can't leave for the time being. The entire Edo has been blocked. I can't leave here with my ability. Besides, you come out and see the situation outside first. Deng Shentong was stunned for a moment, then turned his head to look outside. The two came to the gate of the castle and had been thinking about climbing the mountain before and didn't pay attention to the scene below the mountain. At this time, they took a closer look and almost vomited. The entire Edo has become a huge cesspool, full of huge maggots. And the area around the Immortal Mountain is a gathering place for maggots. Chapter 1530, 7 Maggot Sea. Deng Shentong's face suddenly turned pale. What are these? What on earth? Liang Yu frowned, and soon her thoughts became clear. Since we can't leave for the time being, I'll go kill them all. Without saying a word, she rushed to the left with a knife. Deng Shentong shouted, Hey, that ninja is very difficult to deal with. You have to be careful. Liang Yu raised a hint of sarcasm at the corner of her mouth. Although I haven't practiced the 5 elements escape technique, it doesn't mean that I don't understand it. The so-called ninjutsu is just a clumsy revision of the Chinese 5 elements escape technique. It's okay to fool laymen, but it's extremely clumsy when facing masters who really understand the 5 elements escape technique. For example, there is a kind of invisibility technique in ninjutsu. After completing the task, the ninja fled and suddenly disappeared into the woods, as if he had disappeared out of thin air. In fact, it's just digging a pit in the woods in advance and using grass as a lid. After escaping here, jump into the pit. If you act at night, of course you can't find it. To put it bluntly, most of them are just tricks. If there were still martial arts in modern times, Liang Yu would be the well-deserved leader of the martial arts world, a figure at the level of an old martial artist. How could she be deceived by a ninja like Purgatory Star? Her invisibility can distort light, but for a top-level reinforcement warrior, her footsteps and breathing are extremely obvious. Deng Shentong glanced at the Tianzhou Palace behind him, and there were still many treasures in it. However, most of them were cultural relics, so he thought about it and decided to kill all the aliens in the Yumal court with Liang Yu. If you don't cut the grass at the root, it will grow again in the spring breeze. Last time, it was you guys who went to the Jiangnan region to cause chaos and killed tens of thousands of innocent people in Jiangnan. This time, it's our turn to take revenge. Deng Shintong drew out the sword Griffith in his hand, chose the opposite path from Liang Yu, and killed all the way. Under the immortal mountain, the battlefield has become extremely distorted. This is the first time Zhang Yi has seen such a perverted alien in his life. It's worthy of being a Japanese, so perverted that it's hard to breathe. If one's mind is not strong enough, who can keep his heart from collapsing when facing a sea of maggots? What's more, there is a hideous and disgusting monster in the sea of maggots, slowly flying towards you. Zhang Yi has no better means at this time. The hot weapons consume too much and cannot form an all-round attack. But at the same time, the opponent can't break his defense. So he chose to use the simplest and crudest way, physical fighting. Zhang Yi's melee ability is not strong, but now, with the blessing of the Qianlong armor and the sword in the tree, even at the melee level, he can fight with the white chariot level Epsilon. Time acceleration and swamp of time greatly increase his speed, the power and speed blessing brought by the Qianlong armor, plus a very sharp and arbitrarily changeable sword in the tree. It's not troublesome to deal with these maggots. Zhang Yi fell directly into the sea of maggots, and the sword in the tree in his hand turned into a 40-meter sword. The gears of the Qianlong armor turned, and the power was directly pulled to the maximum. Puff! He aimed at the sea of maggots and chopped them down. The maggots were instantly chopped and their juices splashed. The white slurry splashed everywhere and fell into Zhang Yi's space, where it began to corrode severely. Fortunately, Zhang Yi used a helmet to isolate the outside world, otherwise, just thinking about it, the smell of the maggot corpses would make people vomit. Puff! 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 Zhang Yi, one man and one sword, moved freely in the sea of maggots. You have to understand that at this time, Zhang Yi's biggest enemy is not the sea of maggots, not the evil boy, but himself. Imagine if you fell into a cesspool, would you drown first or die of disgust first? Especially when the giant sword in his hand chopped through the maggots and the disgusting and smelly white juice splashed everywhere. The picture was too beautiful for me to watch. Kill. 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 Zhang Yi had to use a strong killing intent to suppress his extra thoughts, otherwise his heart would collapse as long as he imagined it. In the huge sea of maggots, Zhang Yi would kill dozens of giant maggots with every sword. However, there was still a constant stream of maggots pouring in from the periphery. This place had completely become a sea of maggots. The area where he was located had become a black hole in the sea of maggots. The evil boy flew in from the sky, and seeing Zhang Yi fighting with a sword there, he swooped down with a grim smile. His narrow mouth parts were like a steel pipe, and he stabbed at Zhang Yi's head. Zhang Yi swept his sword into the air with his backhand, but was directly grasped by the evil boy's claws. Ha! Zhang Yi frowned deeply. In close combat, it was still too difficult for him to fight the evil boy. The evil boy laughed loudly, grasped the sword in the tree and exerted force suddenly, and actually threw Zhang Yi up directly, and then threw him fiercely into the sea of maggots in the distance. At the critical moment, Zhang Yi directly cut off the sword in the tree, and then flew backwards. Morning in the forest. A series of dimension gates blocked him in front of him, and a large number of maggots came towards the sky cricket pupa. Sank into a space. Zhang Yi felt a little headache. If all these maggots rushed into the space, with the maggots raised by 500,000 people in Edo, his space would definitely be destroyed. By then, his fighting power would be greatly reduced, and he would definitely not be able to leave here alive. If only I had more manpower. Zhang Yi frowned tightly, and the sword in the tree in his hand suddenly expanded, extending a large number of vines to block the maggots. A green sphere appeared in the air. It was Zhang Yi who was wrapped by the sword in the tree. But the next moment, the evil boy crashed directly into the tree ball. He laughed, chuckled grimly, and the sound was like a low-quality toy. Then he used his sharp and sturdy limbs to roughly dismantle the thick vines, and his head got into it, looking directly at Zhang Yi. I got you. As soon as he finished speaking, the sharp spikes pierced directly into the dimension gate. A surge of energy instantly penetrated dozens of dimensional gates, blasting them to pieces. Zhang Yi's pupils suddenly shrank. If there is anyone who can pose such a threat to him now, it is probably only those terrifying beings in the underground world. But how did the evil boy do it? Soon he figured out everything. After the sea of maggots poured into his alien space, it would absorb his energy and then feed it back to the evil boy. In other words, the longer the battle between the two lasted, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. Brother, can you find a way to trap him? Seeing that Zhang Yi's condition was not good at this time, Yang Xinxin's voice came. Zhang Yi understood that she was going to use the Angel of Desire to control the evil boy and make him commit suicide. Yang Xinxin's ability is indeed powerful, but this kind of rule-based ability has a very demanding premise, which is to let her arrow, which is not fast, hit the target. However, at the moment, Zhang Yi can't think of a way to trap the evil boy. He didn't even dare to use the power of the void to attack the evil boy and the sea of maggots. Chapter 1538 The Correct Use of the Sword in the Tree. Zhang Yi used the giant sword in the tree to attack the maggot sea that kept attacking him, while responding to Yang Xinxin's words. There is no good way to trap that guy for the time being, Yang Xinxin said, but if that's the case, it won't be easy to defeat him in a short time. Yeah. Even Zhang Yi was sighing. This is indeed a very difficult opponent to deal with. If Zhang Yi wants to win, the large amount of supplies stored in his alien space can come in handy. But in that case, he will have to use up a lot of his supplies to wipe out the maggot sea. This is a bit painful for him, and it is extremely uneconomical. So he won't choose to do this until there is really no other way. The maggot sea came in waves, and the white waves were mixed with a large number of black spots, rolling, squirming, layer upon layer, scrambling, and swarming towards Zhang Yi's alien space. At this time, he had to open the alien space for the maggots to gnaw, otherwise, he would be trapped in the maggot sea. With his current killing speed, it would take a long time to deal with the entire maggot sea. What's more, there is an extremely evil boy next to him, who is always looking for an opportunity to attack him. The huge and ugly appearance makes people want to vomit at a glance. It is even more disgusting than flies and mosquitoes, and it looks like a hideous monster born in a dung heap. But even so, the current extremely evil boy has improved a lot in speed, strength, and defense compared to the previous human form. He can use the maggot sea to absorb Zhang Yi's spatial power, and then launch a powerful attack on Zhang Yi. Ha ha ha. Chaos, come on, let me let you taste the taste of being the food of maggots. The top alien of Huashu country was actually bitten to death by my maggots. This feeling must be wonderful, right? He grinned and aimed his huge needle-like mouth at Zhang Yi, firing a dark energy cannon that penetrated the void. That was Zhang Yi's void power. Wah-la-la. It seemed that the sound of something breaking could be clearly heard. Zhang Yi's dimensional gate resisted the power of the void, and a large number of shatters were instantly produced. In the broken holes, the sea of maggots surged over in an instant, and then gnawed his alien space frantically. Zhang Yi kept flashing, using the ability of Space Shuttle to escape to a higher place. However, the sky above the entire Edo castle had been blocked by the 3 black shadows, and his movements were greatly restricted. No matter where he ran, the sea of maggots throughout the city would quickly follow. A fierce look flashed in Zhang Yi's eyes. He turned his head coldly and looked at the ugly body of the evil boy after he turned into a beast. Catch the king first. If you want to control the sea of maggots, you must kill this guy. After that, he raised his right hand horizontally, with 2 fingers together like a sword, pointing at the evil boy. Although you can absorb energy and then transform it into your own attack means. But I don't believe that there is no limit to your endurance. The terrifying power of the void turned into a black hole behind Zhang Yi and then gathered at his fingertips. The dark light condensed, like a small sun, and the black light swallowed the surrounding light, making the entire sky much darker, and Edo City instantly entered a lightless night. The evil boy also felt the power of this attack, and his eyes became much more solemn. But he did not dodge because he knew that he could not avoid the instantaneous locking skills in this space. So he slapped each other with his slender limbs, making a provocative move to Zhang Yi. Ha ha ha. Come on. Let's see if you can kill me. Zhang Yi spoke softly, his voice extremely cold. Divine realm pure tribulation. The black light disappeared at Zhang Yi's fingertips and appeared at the location of the evil boy a moment later. It seemed that there was a sound of something breaking, and the entire space was distorted by this powerful force. The huge body of the evil boy twisted uncontrollably, and the black and white shell broke apart. The outer shell turned into debris and fell down. A large amount of flesh and blood collapsed, and blood flowed down like a spring.
You?
The evil boy's voice was a little horrified because his body was completely twisted and the giant mosquito-like body was squeezed into a ball. But soon, he laughed even crazier. Sure enough, you are the best.
It's so satisfying, so satisfying, so satisfying.
It's so satisfying. After surviving the attack, the evil boy began to recover his body. Zhang Yi frowned. After the attack, the supernatural power in his body also became temporarily empty. The sea of maggots had completely surged, almost covering all the space around him, and then poured into the alien space like a tide. If this continues, I'm afraid he will completely become the nutrient of the sea of maggots. Zhang Yi frowned deeply. Yang Xinxin also said to Zhang Yi, Brother, it's time to make a decision. Even if all the supplies in your hands are exhausted, you can get more in the future. To launch a physical attack on the sea of maggots, a large number of weapons are needed. Now the ammunition has been almost used up, but Zhang Yi still has a large amount of fuel and yuanshi vein stored. Release this high-purity energy and burn the whole. An Edo can solve the current crisis, but it would be a waste to do so. Zhang Yi would not do it unless it was absolutely necessary. But now, it is clear that the situation does not allow Zhang Yi to consider it anymore. Just when he was about to do it according to Yang Xinxin's words and endure the pain, he suddenly felt a strong throbbing in his arm. Zhang Yi looked down and found that the feeling came from the sword in the tree in his hand. Huh? What is going on? Isn't boss already brain dead? Why is there still a reaction? The throbbing came from the sword in the tree. At this time, Zhang Yi and the sword in the tree became one, and he could feel the sword in the tree conveying a kind of desire to him. Brother, although the brain is dead, the body still has instincts. Perhaps the sword in the tree was strongly stimulated, so it sent a signal to you. Zhang Yi was a little surprised. He saw the tip of the sword in the tree, and the vines couldn't wait to extend towards the sea of maggots. Boss no longer exists, and now it is just a sword in the tree. And the instinct of plants is to spread in the direction of sufficient sunlight, water, and nutrients. Zhang Yi's eyes lit up, and he looked at the sword in the tree. Could it be that you want to use the things in these manure pits as your nutrients? The sword in the tree could not give Zhang Yi an answer, but the tip that desperately wanted to extend to the sea of maggots had already expressed its intention. Zhang Yi nodded. Then let's give it a try. He increased the output of his superpowers. Anyway, energy attacks have little effect on the sea of maggots, so why not give the sword in the tree a chance?
Boom.
The sword in the tree, which was infused with Zhang Yi's full power, was like a sky garden that suddenly exploded in midair. Tens of thousands of thick vines instantly extended, and then rushed towards the sea of maggots. Chapter 1539. The Situation of Bipolar Reversal. The sword in the tree gave Zhang Yi its instinctive reaction, so Zhang Yi decided to give it a chance to see if it could have an impact on the maggot sea. In midair, thousands of huge vines, under the blessing of the black chariot-level superpowers, rushed into the maggot sea. Puff, 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 puff. A large number of vines were like sharp swords falling from the sky, directly piercing those huge maggots. The smelly white slurry splashed everywhere. The physical defense of the maggots is not strong. They can only absorb the attack of superpowers. But facing the piercing of thousands of bushes and thorns, they can't defend at all. Thousands of maggots were directly pierced, but this alone is not enough. Because soon a large number of maggots will crawl over and bite off the vines. They can even absorb the energy from the vines. But soon, Zhang Yi had a strange feeling. After the vines pierced the maggots, they actually began to grow inside them, and the roots at the end frantically absorbed the nutrients in the maggots. That powerful force was actually fed back to Zhang Yi. Reverse absorption? Zhang Yi's eyes widened. He didn't expect that the sword in the tree could have such an ability. But if you think about it carefully, this is actually very reasonable. Plant-type ability users can absorb the power from the earth like trees. The strong vitality allows them to even absorb nutrients from manure. Ugh, it sounds a bit disgusting, but the corpses of creatures can indeed make trees thrive. Zhang Yi had not studied these in the past. After all, this was one of the few battles he had fought after obtaining the sword in the tree. The discovery of this ability made Zhang Yi's eyes full of excitement. There is a way to deal with these maggots. After killing the maggots, the sword in the tree grew stronger and continued to expand around at a more terrifying speed. They took deep roots in every inch of visible land, strangled and pierced those giant maggots, and then devoured the energy in their bodies like plunder. The green rhizome inserted into the body of the maggot, just like drinking juice, and of sucking sound could be heard throughout the Edo castle. The power was fed back to Zhang Yi, replenishing his originally consumed superpowers. Even the alien origins from the demon kingdom that had not been completely digested in Zhang Yi's body began to stir. Sure enough, fighting is the best way to increase the superpower index. Zhang Yi could clearly feel that as those origins were digested, his strength became stronger. If I can transform the origins stored in my body, my superpower index can reach 22,000 points. That's great. Zhang Yi raised the corner of his mouth. He didn't expect that there would be such a surprise this time. The three black shadows watching the battle from a distance saw this scene and felt that something was wrong.
No.
He actually has such a weapon, this is bad. What should we do? Will the seeds we have cultivated with great effort be lost? This is unacceptable. This kid must be cultivated by the Dragon Country, otherwise he would not have such a strong strength. Humph, but even if he is from the Dragon Country, so what? This is the Zeepan Country. It is not their turn to run wild. But should we take action? A black shadow asked this question. The two black shadows next to him fell into silence. After a long time, the black shadow in the middle slowly said, "No, it's not time yet. If we show up, we may encounter unimaginable dangers." The slightly shorter black shadow on the left snorted coldly. "It won't take much effort to kill that kid." The black shadow in the middle said, "Don't take risks. Don't try to provoke that person. We have tried it many years ago. The result was very painful." The black shadow on the left stopped talking, but his eyes were fixed on Zhang Yi, and his dark blue eyes were as sharp as a demon. At this time, the body of the evil boy that was destroyed by Zhang Yi finally recovered. When he saw the situation in front of him, the smile on his face disappeared immediately. He saw that from the sky, Zhang Yi's arms strangely extended downwards to a huge tree, like the world tree growing upside down, extending to the earth. Then a huge tree crown bloomed in Edo. The maggot sea he had cultivated for a long time was fighting with those huge vines. They devoured each other, but it was obvious that the maggot sea fell into a huge disadvantage. This is an irreversible situation. The maggot sea is good at dealing with supernatural attacks, and its own physical defense is not very strong. The sword in the tree is just the opposite. The huge trees that can grow infinitely have thick skin and flesh. After growing to 2 or 3 meters thick, it is difficult for the maggots to cause much damage. You guy? The evil boy was angry at this time, which also proved that he really started to panic. He claimed to be invincible in Edo City, relying on the maggot sea that he had carefully cultivated for a year. As long as the maggot sea is not destroyed, he cannot be killed. However, at the moment, the maggot sea has met its nemesis. He could no longer remain calm and raised his long mouthparts high. A terrifying void. Force condensed at the end of the mouthparts, forming a huge black ball. The sword separated from the inside and turned into an extremely powerful void cannon. It aimed at Zhang Yi, aimed, and then fired with a boom. However, at this time, Zhang Yi had completely calmed down. Through the sword in the tree, He reversed the current situation, so there was no need to rush to fight the evil boy. Now, it was the other party who was anxious. Tracing the tracks of all things, O predicted the trajectory of the evil boy's attack in advance, so Zhang Yi easily avoided this attack using Space Shuttle. The terrifying power shot into the sky. Although it was extremely powerful, it was useless. The evil boy danced in the air. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! You run around like a nasty bug. The middle school boy cursed. Before you say this, you'd better look in the mirror first. Zhang Yi's mocking voice came from a distance. He aimed at the evil boy again, and his right hand was like a sword. At this time, the sword in the tree continuously absorbed the power of the maggot sea and fed it back to Zhang Yi. The power replenishment he could get was more and faster than the evil boy. Then, let's see who has the stronger defense.
Oh, right.
I almost forgot that Zhang Yi's ability code is absolute defense.
So, next, it's hunting time.
God's domain purification. The powerful attack mercilessly bombarded the evil boy, smashing his body to pieces again. On the ground, the sword in the tree devoured the sea of maggots more and more, completely restraining their actions and not allowing them to escape.
Puff.
Puff. Puff. Puff. The sword in the tree found the most suitable nutrients for itself and excitedly absorbed a large amount of these juicy insects. It itself also began to evolve because of this huge amount of energy rushing towards the higher peak of the delta level. Chapter 1540, The Boy's Defeat. The power of the sword in the tree completely broke the balance of the entire battlefield. The strength of the evil boy was not as good as Zhang Yi. He relied on the advantage of the terrain and used the sea of maggots to gain a momentary advantage. So, at this time, he was back to being beaten by Zhang Yi. The power of the divine realm of purification was very strong, and it would take a certain amount of time for him to absorb and transform it. However, at this time, the sea of maggots was destroyed in large quantities, and the speed of his recovery from injuries was also rapidly slowing down. Even this time, it took him 7 or 8 seconds to recover. Zhang Yi was not in a hurry to attack at this time. Ordinary attacks were meaningless. To attack, you must use the strongest means, accumulate strength, and completely break through the defense of the evil boy. Cause him irreparable serious injuries. After the evil boy recovered, he seemed to feel that the situation on the battlefield was not good, and suddenly made a piercing hissing sound in the distance. Zhang Yi looked at his ugly appearance and couldn't help frowning, and was also secretly alert. What is he doing? Is he going to call for help? His eyes unconsciously looked down. The night parade of 100 ghosts was held back by Hua at this time. Those illusory ghosts were not enough to pose a threat to Zhang Yi. Moreover, they acted unconsciously and would not obey the orders of the evil boy to besiege Zhang Yi. But how did they come into being? There must be some power behind it. If that power appeared at this time, even Zhang Yi would feel a headache. However, nothing happened. The 3 black shadows watching the battle in the distance ignored the call of the evil boy. They were not willing to show up at this time, because they would have to pay a huge price to truly come to this world. The evil boy did not wait for his reinforcements, which made him even more angry. You abandoned me too, right? Okay, I knew that in this world, no one is trustworthy except me. His eyes stared at Zhang Yi, as cold as a poisonous snake. Even if I'm alone, I can still kill you. Zhang Yi asked back, but what do you rely on? He raised his right hand, and the power of the void gathered in his palm, dark, evil, and full of destructive power. Without the blessing of the Sea of Maggots, your strength is only about 16,000 points at most. Let alone defeating me, you can't even break my defense. With your current strength, what can you use to fight me? The evil boy was angry and unwilling to face Zhang Yi, and once again released his proud, outer Dao Hellfire Cannon. But without converting Zhang Yi's power, he could not even blast through even one-dimensional door by simply attacking with his own power. Zhang Yi took a deep breath, and he felt that the power in his body had surged up. Just now, he was almost forced into a desperate situation by the evil boy. That sense of urgency and crisis actually made him break through the limitations of his strength and completely integrate the original power obtained from the Demon Kingdom. The power index is 22,000 points, a black chariot-level alien. Zhang Yi was suspended in the sky, looking down at the ugly mosquito-like monster. The void power in the palm of his right hand was completely condensed into a black ball. He grasped it with a little force, and the black ball, which was originally the size of a fist, was compressed again, becoming only the size of a marble, almost condensed into a dark sphere. Due to the extreme compression, it was extremely unstable, as if it would explode at any time. Zhang aimed his palm at the evil boy, and the black ball slowly began to rotate, and then the speed became faster and faster. A fear of being shrouded in death instantly filled the evil boy's body. Escape. In his mind, there was only this one word at this time. However, before he could take action, Zhang Yi had already made a move. Star Cannon. There was no sign and there was no fancy process. A straight line appeared between Zhang Yi and the evil boy, starting from Zhang Yi's palm, passing through the evil boy and running through the entire undead mountain, and then shooting into the earth. Silently, as if it had always been there, it was so fast that the evil boy couldn't even dodge it. The black light disappeared in an instant. The evil boy looked down at his chest, where a huge hole had been opened. The bright red blood flowed out of the hole. He felt his vitality rapidly fading away. You damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. The evil boy looked up at Zhang Yi, his eyes full of resentment. His body suddenly twisted, and a large number of maggots emerged around the hole and began to fill it, trying to repair his body. But this time, his injuries were too serious, and the sea of maggots devoured by the sword in the tree could not provide him with enough energy. The maggots kept trying, but each time they failed, and more maggots filled his chest. Then, the evil boy exploded in the air with a bang. His whole body turned into a white rain, and countless maggots flew out of his body in all directions. It is hard to imagine that there are tens of thousands of maggots hidden in his body. The sea of maggots is boiling, and under the siege of the sword in the tree down, screaming, fighting back hastily and feebly, and finally all turned into nutrients for the sword in the tree. Zhang Yi could feel the excitement of the sword in the tree, and the level of this sword was also rising. If it absorbed all the maggots in the entire Edo city, it could easily rise to 9,999 points. No, there would even be a lot of residual energy absorbed. This is the accumulation of the entire Yuma court. They depend on the lives of 500,000 residents of the entire Edo. After the maggots are killed, these people in Edo will also die in large numbers, and it will be difficult to survive the cold winter. This battle made Edo completely a dead city. Zhang Yi quickly collected the source power of the evil boy, and then urged the sword in the tree to accelerate the absorption of the maggot sea in the entire Edo city. And Manhwa below had been fighting with the night parade of 100 demons for nearly half an hour. Although it could block the attacks of those ghosts, those things could not be killed at all, so it also made Manhwa quite tired. Zhang Yi dealt with the evil boy, flew down, and instantly killed all the ghosts and monsters present with a move of divine domain purification. Things here have been dealt with, we can leave, Zhang Yi said to Manhwa. But his eyes were always paying attention to the movements around him. If there will be no new troubles. Although the evil boy died, the night parade of 100 demons has not ended, and the barrier covering the entire Edo has not disappeared. That means there must be someone behind the scenes controlling all this. That guy may be more difficult to deal with than the evil boy. Zhang Yi did not dare to be careless. Please subscribe for more latest videos. Thanks.